All right, everybody. 90 million-year-old Alphasaur dinosaur species discovered. And as well, we're going to be going over 8 other species of dinosaurs. We're also streaming on Kick and YouTube. And for those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. So, 90 million-year-old Patagonian fossil reveals missing chapter in evolution of Alphasaurid dinosaurs. A remarkably complete skeleton of the Alvarosauroid dinosaur species Aunashetri caropasiensis from Patagonia, Argentina, as well as 2 other Alvarosauroid specimens from the northern hemisphere, reveal how the once mysterious lineage of theropod dinosaurs evolved and spread before continents drifted apart, challenging long held assumptions about their origins. Wow, that was a massive compound or run-on sentence, but definitely a lot that we're getting out of this. So it's not just a specimen coming in from Patagonia, Argentina, but also a couple of specimens coming in from North America. Though it says the northern hemisphere, that could be um, Asia. I'm guessing it's unlikely for it to come from Europe, but it certainly is possible. Let's see. So, also, let me know in the comments what your favorite species of carnivorous theropod dinosaur is, or if there's maybe some herbivorous dinosaurs you would think would be interesting to see them as well being omnivorous. So, this must be Aunal Sharktri. This seems to be a very good reconstruction of this group of theropod dinosaurs. So, these are distant relatives of larger species of carnivores such as T. rex, Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, Spinosaurus. But this individual, I'm not too familiar with this genus. I'm guessing by the looks of it, he can't be much more than maybe 3.5 feet or pushing around a meter in length and probably weighing somewhere around 10 to 12 pounds or a little over 4 kilograms. So let's take a look at another creature before we head further into the article. So, the Alvarsaurids are actually members of the Coelurosaur lineage of theropod dinosaurs. Now, what's interesting is that the Alvarsaurids used to be theorized as a run-on group of the prosauropods, which is quite interesting considering the prosauropods ended up dying out somewhere around 180 million years ago during the late early Jurassic. And this is also around the time that the true long necked sauropods started evolving, and we start seeing real true forms of the long necked sauropods pop up around 175 million years ago. So, towards the beginning of the middle Jurassic. But then it ended up being a bit more clear looking at or taking a deeper look at their um, just morphology is that these do belong to the Coelurosaur lineage of theropods, which is a massive group of the carnivore lineage. So you have animals such as the different species of raptors, like the dromaeosaurs. You have different species of oviraptorids. So technically close relatives of the dromaeosaur lineage with the large, robust crests on the top of their head, as well as even long clawed species of herbivorous dinosaurs. Okay. So let's see. What was I going to go over? Okay, so this is Alvarezsaurus. So this animal was somewhere around 4 to 8 feet in length, or pushing maybe a little over 2 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 60 to 80 pounds, or a little over 30 kilograms. So it wasn't a very large species of Alvarezsaur, but the Alvarezsaurs never became very large either, and was likely a just small species of carnivore feeding on different species of insects. So who do we have here? Let's see. Okay, so we have haplokines as well as Mononychus. Mononychus is probably the most famous species of Alvarezsaurid, and that's probably thanks to Chased by Dinosaurs with Nigel Marvin, due to the fact that they had a Mononychus in the Land of Giants episode. So essentially, Mononychus is one of the only species of dinosaurs to have a single digit, meaning that it only had a thumb claw. and we don't really know what these would have been used for, if anything. They were much more useless compared to T Rex arms or even the lineage of theropod dinosaurs called the Carnivores, which had some of the smallest arms compared to their body size. But Mononychus probably had even smaller arms. Also, the Carnivores in many cases had at least three fingers. So let's see. Who else? Oh gosh, who's this supposed to be?
Him too, I think.
Is this supposed to be another Alvarez sword? This must be a much older depiction. Oh yeah, it's even 1999. Okay, so there might be feathers on him, but they could just be extended scales. You could say also in the 90s, much of the time when it came to quite an array of different species of dinosaurs, it became uh, more common to see like different species of raptors, let's see here, dromaeosaurs, as well as smaller Microraptoran theropod dinosaurs from the early Cretaceous of China to have feathers. But at this point, you did have quite an array of even smaller theropod dinosaurs just being seen with scales, but it's still a very good depiction. These would definitely be very mobile creatures. So let's head back to the article. Oh, also the Alvarez swords. Whoops. This is not Alvarez sword, but it is a close relative. The Alvarez The Alvarez swords first evolved around, I believe, 97 million years ago, towards the beginning of the late Cretaceous. So technically, they evolved when dinosaurs such as the immense Spinosaurus over in Morocco and Egypt first evolved. So let's see. Aunashetri caropolasiensis lived in what is now Argentina during the Cenomanian age of the late Cretaceous epoch, some 90 million years ago. So, this individual, wait a second. Is that who was over here? No, it was Hippocampus. Okay. This is about 7 million years after the first Alvarez swords had evolved. First described in 2012 from fragmentary remains, the species belongs to a group of bird-like dinosaurs called the Alvarezsauroideae. This is a much larger family of theropod dinosaurs that also consists of the Alvarezsauridae lineage of theropods. These small dinosaurs are famous for their tiny teeth and stubby arms ending in a single large thumb claw. Well, certain alvarezsaurs, many people tend to only associate with, okay, if they have any knowledge of the alvarezsaurs, usually only think of Mononychus. But in many cases, there were certain species of alvarezsaurs that had two digits. So it wasn't just the one thumb claw; they also had an index finger as well, which seems to be the case with Aunashetri. Let's see. So alvarezsauroids are an enigmatic clade of predominantly small-bodied theropod dinosaurs that are known mainly from the Jurassic to Cretaceous periods of Asia and South America, said University of Minnesota Twin Cities paleontologist Peter Makovicki and his colleagues. So, when it's referring to the alvarezsauroideae, this is a much larger branch. So that's why, yes, they do branch to, um, what is it? I believe at some point in the Middle Jurassic. Let's see. So, late Cretaceous alvarezsauroids possess specialized forelimbs adapted for digging, minute supernumerary teeth. Oh, okay. So, when it came to the digging, this did pop up or has been shown in documentaries like Prehistoric Planet. But more likely, they would probably have just used their feet or their toe claws for extracting different species of insects, especially different species of termites that it has been theorized by other paleontologists. Now, there have been also different theories as to how specifically this animal would have foraged for food. And what I mean by that is that there have been certain depictions of this animal feeding like an anteater. So, um, really just using a very long, s sticky tongue to extract termites. So let's see. Since it does look like there were termites at least during the late Cretaceous period, so over 95 million years ago. Let's see, and heightened sensory capacities and are interpreted as myrmecophagus, feeding primarily on ants. Yes, well, there were different species of ants around that time as well. I believe it's around the early Cretaceous that we start seeing different species of ants. So somewhere between 110 to 120 million years ago. And ants ended up reaching their height. I'm just mentioning this real quick. I know many do not want to get to focus too much on the insects, but they reached their largest size during the Paleocene epoch, or around 56 million years ago, about 9 million years, 9 to 10 million years after the dinosaurs went extinct. Though they did coexist with different species of large herbivorous, in quote, terror birds, and some of the first horses. So let's see. Um, Actually, let's go back to some other animals. So, besides the alvarezsaurs, we're going to move over to a very closely related family called the therizinosaurs. And these animals also first evolved much earlier in time, at least compared to alvarezsauridae. Therizinosauridae first evolved around 140 million years ago. Technically, we don't really know exactly when they were first appearing, but that does seem to be the case considering um, they tend to, at least with the earliest species of this family, almost line up to that date. But this is Baeoposaurus. I mean, not Baeoposaurus, unless this is an older depiction. Because the thing is, when it comes to smaller therizinosaurs like Baeoposaurus, they used to be depicted as having a much longer neck compared to their body size, like many therizinosaurs, or at least that's the stereotype look. But when it comes to Baeoposaurus, it actually had it's showing up with this. Okay, so
Yeah,
these are older
2 of them
depictions.
that you wanted me to pull, they looked almost identical.
Yeah, so these are older depictions. When it comes to Baeoposaurus, this animal actually had a relatively short neck compared to its body size. And this has also been put out a lot more recently. You had it where back in the early 2000s, even early 2010s, this was a typical look for Baeoposaurus. But in reality, the neck would have been maybe 40% of the length. It was pretty short. Compared to most other therizinosaurs, that's not him. So yeah, when it comes to Beopsaurus, it also tends to be given this kind of very small sort of a look. It wasn't necessarily the smallest thing on or in the ecosystem inhabited over in China around 130 million years ago. So close to the beginning of the Cretaceous, but within 15 million years of that time frame, considering the Cretaceous started around 145 million years ago. The Episaurus, it looks like, with most species of Therizinosaurs, was mostly feeding on different species of leaves, though it is possible it might have fed on different species of insects or possibly even scavenger. Let me know in the comments if you are big fans of the Therizinosaur lineage, or you just simply like how they look. If you're not even familiar with them, that you find them relatively interesting. This is a more typical look with certain larger species, but Baeoposaurus was somewhere around 8 to 12 feet in length and probably weighed somewhere around 2 to 400 pounds, or a little over 150 kilograms. So let's see. Also, this seems a bit kind of skinny. I think this is a much older depiction as well. But yeah, these are far too lean. Now, this is a bit of a later relative. This individual first evolved around 110 million years ago during the late early Cretaceous. This is Alxosaurus, which is also another member of the Therizinosaur lineage. And also, for those that are wondering, the more famous relatives, such as Therizinosaurus, don't or won't evolve until somewhere around 71 million years ago, toward the early Maastrichtian stage of the Cretaceous period. So they are those individuals are far into the future at this point. But Allosaurus could reach somewhere around 20 feet in length or pushing 6 meters and probably weigh somewhere around 7 to 800 pounds or pushing a little over 350 kilograms. So, this animal inhabited Mongolia around, oh, I think I already mentioned, 110 million years ago. Also, it seems to be an herbivore, like most species of therizinosaurs. Their claws have also become a bit longer compared to their body size at this point as well. There are certain depictions like this. This is actually from a book, like back in the early 2000s, and it did depict Allosaurus as having quite short claws compared to its body size. So it's very likely they would have been much longer. It was interesting because this is also around the time when they started giving therizinosaurs like Allosaurus feathers. Let's see. What else? Actually, let's go back to the article. Though I would say at this point, within the Therizinosaurs and the Allosaurs' existence, you also have certain early species of horned dinosaurs, such as these ceratopsians that are evolving, as well as different species of armored ankylosaurs, and some early species of tyrannosaurs as well. So let's see. Okay. So they are hypothesized to exhibit evolutionary miniaturization coupled to their dietary specialization. The new, almost complete skeleton of Alnishitri carapolisiensis was discovered in the La Buitrera fossil area in Rio Negro province, northern Patagonia. Microscopic analysis of the specimen confirmed the animal was indeed an adult of at least 4 years old. It weighed less than zero point 0.9 kilograms or around 2 pounds, making it one of the smallest dinosaurs known from South America. Wow, this is well, okay, if it's talking about this specific specimen, I'm guessing it's probably not to full-grown adults. Maybe they reached a bit larger in size, but it doesn't seem too surprising that we would have a species of Alvarosaurid as small as this, considering there were many 4 foot long, or at least a handful of 4 foot long Alvarosaurs that have been discovered, or pushing around 3.2 feet. So, unlike its later relatives, Aunashetri carapolisiensis had long arms and larger teeth. Oh yeah, actually, that wasn't hitting me. This specific Alvarsaur does have very long arms compared to its body size. These I could see as being quite useful depending on their overall locomotion
Why does it
or
look like it's
mobility.
almost giving them flight capability, but not quite?
Many species of the Maniraptoran lineage of dinosaurs, which is basically what the Dromaeosaurs, Oviraptors, Ceratinosaurs, and Alvarsaurs belong to, would have had or have been depicted as having this sort of a feather structure, but not really helping them with any sort of um, probably even like slow down in descent if they're falling off a cliff or something like that. But I mean, I think it looks pretty good. They even have it where the feathers coming down towards the top of the ankle bone, which is quite typical in many species of smaller theropod dinosaurs. The tail seems to look pretty good. In different types of dromaeosaurs or the raptors, the feathers along the tail tend to be a bit more pronounced, or what I mean by that is a bit larger compared to what we see here in this type of feather coating. This is just a simply different type of a structure. Let's head back. Okay, so according to the paleontologists, this proves that some alvarosauroids evolved to be tiny long before they developed these specialized features thought to be adaptations for their ant-eating diet. By identifying previously found alvarosauroid fossils in museum collections from North America and Europe, the researchers also proved these dinosaurs originated much earlier than expected when the continents were still connected as a supercontinent Pangea. Um, Probably as you're talking about some of the oldest Alvarosauroids over in the early Jurassic, when Pangea or much of the continents were still connected. That makes sense. Okay, so let's take a look at somebody else. So this is simply a skeleton of Allosaurus. And as you can see, they do have very distinct teeth, unlike many species of the theropod lineage. This is also one of
Can't
the
even see
few.
their teeth.
Yeah, they're pretty small. This is almost like an ornithomimid sort of a jaw structure, which ornithomimids are pretty closely related to the allosaurids. And in many cases, when it comes to their skull structure, have quite similar morphologies. But let's see. This is not a member Alvarsauridae. It's a Therizinosaur. It wasn't hitting me. Okay. So technically, these are also related to both the ornithomimids and the alvarsaurs. But oh gosh, what is it? Therizinosaurs. Many of them do have somewhat small teeth inside their mouth. Let's see. Let's just head over to another animal. Okay. Well, this is an older depiction. But this is supposed to represent Dromaeosaurus. However, in the 1999 series Walking with Dinosaurs, they portray this animal existing over in Montana around 66 million years ago. How I think the documentary is like 65 million years ago, but technically dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago. Dromaeosaurus technically existed over in Montana, Alberta, Canada, as well as Alaska around 75 million years ago during the late Campanian stage of the Cretaceous. And it does look like there have been certain tooth specimens that have been found over in northern Mexico as well as Texas in certain late Cretaceous formations. But the problem with this depiction, even though I think it looks great when it comes to the color pattern, also how they had the animal act to an extent, is that it has far too robust of a jaw structure, or also a bit too roundish. And it should be a bit more narrow and just overall sleek. Dromaeosaurus did have a much more powerful sort of bite structure compared to many species of dromaeosaur around its size. However, it didn't have necessarily, this is almost pushing like an abelisaurid sort of a jaw structure, or something like a Carnotaurus or a Majungasaurus, which also did not coexist with the dromaeosaurs like um, Dromaeosaurus itself. So let's see. What's another thing? Also, when it comes to the arms, they are somewhat oddly placed, and I'd say
They extremely
probably
long.
um, it's not really the length that I have an issue with. Maybe the fingers.
Yeah,
They seem a bit off, but when it comes to just how they're placed, a bit too crooked. This might be with something that you see in certain small species of the Dromaeosaur family and like relating to certain species of Microraptorans, but not with larger species of dromaeosaurs. Their toes seems to be okay. Their overall body, like the neck's a bit too long, and just their overall body core and tail don't line up. And this is supposed to be a baby torosaurus over here, which has too large of a frill compared to its body size. A baby torosaurus would have a much smaller frill. So, let's see. This dromaeosaur, you could say in some instances, is a bit better. Part of that is because it has feathers. And the other thing is that the skull lines up a bit more with an actual dromaeosaur, but it's still quite off. I'd say it's a bit skinny compared to its body size.
kind of picked him because I thought he was funny looking.
Yeah, he is. He's one of those early 2010s, I think, National Geographic depictions. Oh, okay. This is actually pretty good. So a bit of a longer, somewhat more narrow sort of a skull, but it also has a bit of more robustness to it. I'd say smaller dromaeosaurs, such as Dromaeosaurus, have a skull structure a bit closer to earlier relatives such as Utahraptor, and even later relatives like Dakota Raptor that would eventually evolve in North America. Now, if I haven't mentioned, Dromaeosaurus was somewhere around 7 feet in length. They're pushing 2.1 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 40 pounds or a little over 18 kilograms. and was probably hunting younger individuals of different species of hadrosaurs that it coexisted with, maybe even younger or probably babies, members of the ceratopsian or horned dinosaur lineage. And it's likely even young ankylosaurs as well. So I guess if they're not being accompanied by an adult, then it would be a much easier prey item. But an ankylosaur could easily smush a dromaeosaur like a pancake, but so could a hadrosaur or even a ceratopsian. It is very possible that these animals did hunt in packs. And when it comes to their intelligence, they have been occasionally been seen as some of the smartest dinosaurs to exist, but then again, they can be on par with quite a variety of other different species of theropods that existed, such as the different species of tyrannosaurs. They were very intelligent. Um, seems to be just as intelligent as today's modern birds. Looking at the amount of neurons that are located in the brain. Um, let's see. What else? Think I was gonna compare them to maybe certain species of bellisaurids. Well, maybe even carcharodontosaurs, but the larger carcharodontosaurs I'm referring to already went extinct early in the Cretaceous. So this is Dakotaraptor, which was discovered a handful of years back. And this animal is probably the second to third largest raptor to have evolved. And it has been found over in Montana, possibly some part of southern Alberta, dating to around the same time as T Rex. So somewhere between 68 to 66 million years ago. And this animal pushed somewhere around 15 to 18 feet in length, or over 5.5 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 800 pounds, or a little over 380 kilograms.
What about after we got his feathers off and got him ready for the grill?
Well, I wouldn't want to eat a Dakota Raptor, but I have no idea. I really wonder how much that would take off. I wouldn't think it would be too much, but they do add some weight. That would be quite an odd looking Dakota Raptor as well, quite vulnerable too. Dakota Raptor was likely taking on at least medium sized individuals of animals such as Edmontosaurus, and specifically Edmontosaurus annectens that used to inhabit vast areas of the interior United States as well as southern Canada. And this animal was somewhere around 40 feet in length, or pushing over 12 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 7 to 8 tons. And was also a viable food source for animals such as T Rex. And maybe even when it came to younger individuals, certain crocodilomorphs that used to inhabit the area, like Borealisuchus. There are a couple of other individuals that aren't hitting me. Let's see. What else when it comes to Edmontosaurus? Oh, so it did coexist with other animals such as Triceratops, Torosaurus at the end of the Cretaceous, and even large species of flying pterosaurs such as Quetzalcoatlus. And then there is this little guy, Troodon. Now, this Troodon, hmm, this AI image, it's a bit. I'd say the legs aren't bad. Maybe even the arms, they seem okay. But there's something about the tail and the interior, and definitely the head. Troodontids have very long and thin, narrow skulls compared to their body size. They've also been concluded as being literally the smartest dinosaurs to exist. However, there's a lot of speculation around this. They could simply just have quite similar intelligence to other species of dromaeosaurs, as well as even the tyrannosaurs or abelisaurs. But these animals, especially, let's say you're referring to species down in Canada and different parts of Montana, Wyoming, didn't really exceed 6 to 6.5 feet, or pushing 2 meters, and maybe didn't weigh much more than 30 pounds, or a little over 12 kilograms. We're probably feeding on different species of small amphibians, reptiles, as well as maybe even preying on dinosaur hatchlings and going after the small mammals that existed our own ancestors during this time. So I'm guessing this is another older depiction of Troodon. This might be from the late 1990s, possibly, though this could be early 2000s. In fact, I think this is part of not just a book, but a sticker set. Maybe a sticker set came with the book. Okay, let's see. Though it is possible that if they did hunt in packs, they might have been able to prey on certain herbivores, especially the hadrosaurs, a bit larger than themselves, but they had to be quite careful. When it came to long and thin, narrow jaw structures relating to the Manoraptoran lineage of dinosaurs, there were the Troodontids, and then there were the Ostroraptors. But the Ostroraptors, which are also from South America, because of the sound of the name, many people might associate to these individuals that I'm referring to as being from Australia or even Austria. So, um, yeah, they're just from South America. Troodontids are mainly from North America.
Okay, and I
Uh,
liked his eye.
Yeah, I mean, this would be probably fairly accurate in many instances. It is very possible that Troodon did have decent night vision, along with certain other species of dromaeosaurs, possibly T Rex to some extent, or different species of tyrannosaurs, as well as even different species of carnivorous theropods from the Jurassic, such as Ceratosaurus, Allosaurus, probably had decent night vision. Even going back to the Triassic, with certain theropods like Silophysis, Herrerasaurus probably had a certain amount of, like a certain ability to see at night. But this would be probably a very typical setting where troodontids would be hunting different species of mammals. Now, not all of them were small. You still had different species of mammals back in the late Cretaceous that could weigh up to 30 pounds or a little over 12 kilograms. But that was an extremely large mammal for that time. Was probably food for larger theropod dinosaur hatchlings. So, oh, okay. This is also a relative of the different species of therizinosaurs and alvarezsaurs. This is Gallimimus, which is probably the most famous species of ornithomimid that there is. This animal is the a member, or specifically the animal that is seen running past a few characters over in the movie Jurassic Park. However, those animals were a bit clunky in the way they moved, and as well when it comes to their overall just body structure. I'd say a bit too much like an ostrich, though these animals are also known as the ostrich-like dinosaurs. Gallimimus could reach over 20 feet in length, or pushing 6 meters, and probably stood somewhere around maybe 6.5 feet in height, or pushing 2 meters. Though it's widely speculated, but they were probably omnivorous, so feeding on a wide range of different types of seeds and different types of leafy material as well, and going after different species of insects, maybe even small mammals in some cases. Now, what is interesting is that they also had quite long arms compared to their body size, and they weren't necessarily delicate either. So it's a bit of a question in some instances as to what specifically, like, maybe they were even preying on with, the help of their arms, but it does seem to be, at least at the moment, that they were just feeding on maybe what they were used for is just simply digging. So maybe trying to harvest just a large mounds of ants or termites, similar to certain species of alvarezsaurs. And this might have been the same thing for, other ornithomimids, like Ornithomimus itself, Struthiomimus. Let's see. Oh, also, Gallimimus existed somewhere around 68 to 69 million years ago, towards the end of the Cretaceous as well. So it came a little after over in Mongolia too, not North America, like Ornithomimus. Ornithomimus was over in Canada during the late Cretaceous, however, a little earlier in time. Gallimimus was over in Mongolia shortly after Velociraptor disappeared. Let's see, when it came to Dakota Raptor, so yeah, this animal was feeding on different species of hadrosaurs, probably younger to mid-sized species of ceratopsians, especially if they were alone or the herd just decide to abandon it. It's also showing in this depiction two birds. And yes, you already had different species of birds or different members of the avian family of theropod dinosaurs already existing during the early Cretaceous period. So they were quite abundant during the late Cretaceous, but they were superseded by the massive pterosaurs. Let's see, is there anything? Oh, we didn't finish. Okay, so back to the Allosaurids. So, these animals starting from the Jurassic. Their distribution was caused by the breakup of the Earth's land masses, not unlikely treks across oceans. Our biogeographical analyses infer a Pangean ancestral distribution for Allosauridae, with Vicarians dominating the early history of the clade. Um, yeah, I wouldn't expect the Allosaurids or really any species of dinosaurs, any groups trekking over the ocean to just another part of the earth. That really doesn't seem to be the case with most animals in general. It can happen, tends to happen with different species of flying animals, and then um, people that I can think of. But also, when it came to people, at least originally, they would, you know, keep near the coast. So let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to go over? I guess when it comes to the hadrosaurs, if you're relating to dromaeosaurs like Dromaeosaurus, I mean, you had larger hadrosaurs such as Edmontosaurus, but also like Parasaurolophus, Corythosaurus,
You want me
many
to pull
members of.
anything else?
Um, I mean, not that I could think of Lambeosaurine family. I mean, if we wanted to pull up another hadrosaur, not really any long necked sauropods. However, you had earlier relatives of the Dromaeosaurus, such as Deinonychus, that might have preyed on different species of sauropods, such as Sauroposeidon. Considering they both existed in North America around the same time and possibly in the same places, different areas of Texas, North Carolina, over into Colorado. And we have found certain specimens, fragmentary though, but of Sauroposeidon, at least over in Texas, and I believe a bit further north, and definitely Deinonychus over in Colorado. Let's see. I believe also Utah as well, maybe even Wyoming. Though it's likely these raptors were probably sticking to a more ornithopod diet, or at least different species of animals related to the iguanodontids, such as iguanodon itself, which hails from England. However, iguanodon was over in England somewhere around 135 million years ago, which was much earlier than even Deinonychus. Oh, didn't click on this. Was this the Ostroraptor? Uh, well, if it is, he has extremely long claws, though, compared to his body size. Osteoraptors had tiny claws, almost a bit similar to the troodontids in some instances, depending on the species of troodon.
I just thought his jaw was awfully long.
Yeah, it's almost like you're looking at a Dinohyrus,
It
which is
looks like it was
technically
done
the
with watercolor,
ornithomime and not a dromaeosaur. Um,
or is this sketching of
well,
some
definitely the
sort? I
background
mean,
looks watercolor.
yeah.
But yeah, it looks like it's supposed to depict like a eerie swamp with long dead trees. There's a species of Oviraptorid over here. It's not hitting me what this is though. Osteoraptors, if you are looking at these species, could reach somewhere around 17 feet in length or pushing a little over 5.5 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 6 to 700 pounds. They were quite lightly built, and looking at their jaw structure, it's very thin and narrow. Not necessarily to the extent of like certain species of. Well, I could be a bit off on that. It's almost like looking at certain species of Spinosaurus to an extent, but still a very distinct morphology, skull morphology. I mean, obviously their body as well. They were very likely covered in an array of feathers. They also lived in Argentina and possibly even Brazil around, I believe, 90 million years ago. So close to around the same time, and possibly just simply different ecosystems that this species of our saurid they have recently found more specimens of existed. So let's see. What is he eating? Like a baby turtle, or is that a chick of some
It was a
sort?
crab.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's a
I
crab.
mean, yeah, it's possible that the Ostroraptors were also feeding on a wide range of different types of what is it? I'm trying to think, not shellfish, but simply different species of crustaceans. I mean, probably shellfish as well. Different types of clams, oysters, um, and likely fish being probably the dominant food source. It is interesting seeing an oviraptorid in this instance. Um, I don't know. Did this come up as Dakota raptor? Possibly the larger species.
I don't know. You want me to look?
Um, I'm just trying to think. There were certain species of oviraptor that have been discovered over in North America, but they're not very common. Oviraptors tend to, so the animal on the right hand corner with the larger crest, um, they tend to be much more abundant over in China and Mongolia.
No, he didn't come up under Dakota Raptor.
Hmm, that's interesting. I guess, well, maybe he just popped up. That can happen with a wide range of different types of animals where ones that are quite distantly related, but maybe are in the same general family will
Oh, wait,
appear
yes,
under
he
a certain
did.
name.
I'm wrong.
Yes, this is definitely not him. Dakota Raptor is a much more robust skull structure compared to this individual.
It's funny because it came up at Prehistoric Beast of the Week. Hold on, let me click and see if it's actually even referencing it. No, it's directly referencing it.
Also, despite how large these raptors were, they were probably quite quick and probably capable of reaching speeds of 30 miles an hour, maybe in short bursts, but definitely capable of that. And also, Dakota Raptor, I'm not sure if I mentioned the height, but could probably reach 6 to 7 feet in height, or pushing a little over 2.2 meters. So, Ostroraptor is probably slightly shorter, maybe pushing just over 2 to 2.1 meters, or a little over 6.5 feet in height, but likely not competing with other dinosaurs for food. They also did not compete with any species of Spinosaurs, mainly because Spinosaurs had already gone extinct around 95 million years ago. There were certain species of Spinosaurs, such as Irritator, that used to inhabit South America, like different parts of Brazil, possibly even Argentina, back in the early Cretaceous over 113 million years ago. But, and you already had other species of dromaeosaurs inhabiting like different parts of North America, Asia at that time, but they didn't really come into contact with the Spinosaurs. Also, neither did the early species of Tyrannosaurs either. Oh, I didn't see this. Um, hmm, I don't know. It's not necessarily terrible. I think the toe claw is a bit off when it comes to Dakota Raptor. This toe claw does a certain type of theropod does have this odd type of toe claw. What is this? It's not a Megaraptor. Megaraptors don't have toe claws. They are related to the Dromaeosaurs, but they are a distinct lineage of Coelurosaurs. Oh gosh, who is this? A species of early,
You're not asking
maybe
what this is
Dromaeosaur?
supposed to be, right?
No, no, no. I'm just wondering because this is completely off for a Dakota Raptor. I don't think the arms are bad, maybe a bit long compared to its body size, but I mean, Dakota Raptor didn't necessarily have short arms. It was kind of like Utah Raptor to an extent. The Utah Raptor was larger. It is the largest species of Dromaeosaur. I also Dakota Raptor doesn't necessarily have as robust of a jaw structure as Utah Raptor, but it was definitely capable of taking on large prey items. Let's see, at least animals exceeding probably 4 to 5 tons in weight. Hmm. I don't like how the tongue is extended up like this. That's not a theropod trait at all. They would simply have stayed flat. I think the teeth are a bit short. They probably would have been much more exposed and a bit larger compared to the overall skull compared to what you see here. I think also the eyes might be a bit small compared to its body size. It also barely has a nostril. Um, I think overall the feathering is not bad. But yeah, it's just odd feet. Actually, it's almost given like an earlier species of tyrannosaur feet, maybe even something like Electrosaurus, which is from Mongolia, somewhere around 88 to 90 million years ago. So just like with coexisting with different species of oviraptorids, this is before the tyrannosaur that I am describing existed. Shortly before um, the hadrosaurs, first of all, but there were different species of iguanodontids. Okay, I didn't see this either. Um, I guess this is supposed to be another Dakota raptor. It's almost got like a Jurassic Park sort of raptor structure, which I don't mind. I mean, I kind of like. I like the Jurassic Park raptors um, skull morphology, but it just doesn't really match any species of dromaeosaurs or raptors when it comes to paleo accuracy, which is fine. But just in this instance, I don't know who this is supposed to represent. I'm guessing it's supposed to be Dakota Raptor. The claws are a bit more accurate. Oh, like an oviraptor egg. Yeah, they can actually be quite abundant in certain areas of China as well as Mongolia. As well, and not just like single eggs. I'm talking also or referring to clusters of eggs as well. Um, I guess the arms aren't terrible if you're looking at their overall musculature, maybe even length. I guess a bit more matching to the animal compared to what? Who was it? Oh, it was him. Okay, yeah, these might seem a bit long. Also, the fingers. I would say Utah Raptor has immense fingers, although Dakota Raptors weren't short either. It did give this guy though very muscular, definitely calf and shin areas. A bit less with the thigh. It's more of like the feathers are giving it more definition. Hmm. Yeah, he looks a bit like I'm not sure a turkey or chicken to an extent. I will say though, his tail looks like certain tropical plants. That's a bit odd. Is there anything? Oh, okay. I didn't see this guy either. I mean, the picture came from something before. But, I'm guessing this is just simply supposed to depict some edge of a swamp or a marsh. There just happens to be a dead Montosaurus in the background, and, this individual is a bit concerned. Maybe it's what? He looks a bit thin. Well, no, I think he's gone. That's a bit strange. Let's see. Yeah, when it came to Montosaurus in general, this was one of the largest species of hadrosaurs to exist. Not the largest, though. There are quite a few people when they think of Montosaurus and they assume that that is the um, largest species of duckbill dinosaur to exist. Though that title belongs to either a species of Saurolophus over in Mongolia or a species of hadrosaur from China called Shantungosaurus. So we're referring to, if you're talking about Shantungosaurus was somewhere around 45 to 50 feet in length. We're pushing somewhere between 14 to 15 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 15 to 20 tons. Whereas Saurolophus existed, well, there were two species of Saurolophus. One species existed over in Alberta around 75 to 80 million years ago, but was relatively small, at least compared to its other species. Um, you could call it like a larger, mid-sized um, hadrosaur, probably not reaching more than 3 tons. And maybe around 30 feet in length or 9 meters. The species over in Mongolia that existed in the region somewhere around 70 to 75 million years ago was about 45, I'd say 45 feet in length or pushing maybe 14 meters and probably weighed close to 13 to 16 tons. So, one of the largest species of hadrosaur to exist, and was also a member of the Lambeosauran lineage of hadrosaurs, like its relative Parasaurolophus. So, um, let's see, this individual, I think this Edmontosaurus maybe came from the model March of the Dinosaurs or possibly Jurassic World. I don't recall. It was a bit while back. They did give this individual very stubby toes. You could say that's a somewhat trait with Edmontosaurus itself, but they still had longer toes compared to its body size. I'd say the forelimbs aren't bad. They could probably add a bit more muscle on them, but certain species of hadrosaurs had somewhat skinny types of or structured forelegs, even though they did have the ability to um, support quite a bit of weight, unlike certain species of dinosaurs much prior to them, being the prosauropods. And the prosauropods, for some reason, in many cases, did not have the ability to support really any weight on their forelimbs. So animals such as Plateosaurus were completely bipedal. And this is over 210 million years ago during the late Triassic over in different parts of North America as well as Europe. Let's see who else. You had different species of also crocodilomorphs, such as the Rausuchians, or different species of later archosauromorphs. Back in the Triassic, well, technically, you had even different species of land um, crocodilomorphs occurring during the late Cretaceous. Certain species being quadrupedal or walking on all fours, but it tended to be a more typical trait, especially the larger species back in the Triassic, where they were bipedal. Though you still had it later on, where certain species could be bipedal, they were just very small. In some cases, a very skinny species. I'd say another thing that you see here is with the osteoderms running along its body. This has been a theory when it comes to different species of hadrosaurs or duck-billed dinosaurs as to whether or not they did have these osteoderms along their body. This tends to be the case with certain species of sauropods, such as Diplodocus, and it is certainly possible with animals such as Edmontosaurus. It doesn't seem to be the case, though, with members of the Lambeosauran family, such as Corythosaurus, Parasaurolophus. They seem to have had a plain, just overall body structure, at least not having these elongated scales along their back. So, well, I think that's it. So, thanks for joining, and happy International Dromaeosaur Day. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. And remember, and nothing is better than all animals all the time. And we're streaming on Kick and YouTube. Oh, yeah. See you tomorrow.